So good morning, everyone. Today we'll be talking about one of the most favorite topics of all time for students, that is public speech or public speaking. Can we have the opening remarks, please? Can we have the opening remarks, please? And I think the person who's been assigned is either not present. So I'll give a little introductory about it. So if you see the two words, public speaking, so that means you have a specific audience and you are speaking before them. Remember, we are talking about technical communication. So in a formal environment where you have an audience which is there, which is meant to listen to what you have to say. So it's also called oratory or an oration, from the word oral. Speaking is an oral activity, right? It's actually the process or an act of performing a speech. Performing a speech, why we are using the word performing over here? The reason is you just don't start speaking. Remember, anything which is related to technical or workplace scenarios, you have to first plan, prepare, and then you perform. Plan, prepare, perform. Right? You have to, not even 3 steps, it's a 4-step thing. Plan, prepare, practice, and then perform. And that's why it's called perform. And it's not just called to give a speech or to narrate a speech. Right? It's an entire process of doing. Right? It is actually a oral way of communicating your ideas to the audience. Usually the audience is little large in number. When I say large in number, I mean to say it's not just limited to 2, 5 or 10 people, it is more than 10. That's how the audience becomes large. Why do we need to communicate orally? I have been repeating every time in unit 2 that written communication is more a concrete way of documenting. It's a more concrete method of passing information to the audience. Now here we are trying to talk about what to do orally. Now what happens is, sometimes written documentation might not be, just give me a minute. So, as I was saying, that we have talked about more concrete ways of communicating, and written documentation is what is more concrete, to be precise. But Why is oral communication as well important as the written one? So in place of, at times when you are in your workplace, when you draft certain sentences, you might have a different idea of what you want to communicate, and audience might take the idea a little differently. So what would you do in such a case? So in such a case, what you are supposed to do is, you're supposed to communicate things orally as well. We are not saying that you remove the written part and just communicate orally, but you also need to work on things, have a written document and an additional oral explanation to it. So it's, oral communication would be similar to a helping hand. What is the purpose? Everywhere when we have talked about anything which is related to workplace, whether written or oral, the first thing that we define is the purpose. So what is the purpose? A very common purpose would be to inform, to persuade when you have to convince people, or to entertain. So there are a few different types of public speaking. So the first one is informative public speaking. It is actually those kinds of public speeches where you provide information on a particular topic or an issue. Usually, business presentations, college presentations are a part of the informative speeches. Remember, when you are presenting in front of your class, whether it's a lecture or a lab session, there are always more than 10 people. There always will be more than 10 people. So informative public speaking, from the word itself, informative public speaking, you can make out that it is actually connected to providing information on a particular topic or a particular issue. Then you have persuasive public speaking. These are the types of speeches where you try to convince a group of people. The speech actually aims at, or the objective of the speech would be to influence and change the opinion of the audience. These kinds of speeches are actually made by the sales and marketing people. One of the other aims of persuasive public speaking is to attract the audience's interest and divert their interest from one product to another product, especially from other product to products of their own company or workplace. Right? So persuasive speeches are meant for convincing people, persuading people. From the name itself, you can say persuasive. It means to persuade. And then you have entertaining public speeches. The main aim over here is to entertain the audience. It's actually where the speaker or the presenter tries to create a humorous and light, lively environment. The speaker would try to make the audience happy through different kinds of anecdotes, stories, and jokes. Stand up comedies are a kind of entertaining public speeches. Please mark this as an important question. What are the different types of public speeches? And give few examples. So if you can see, the first type is informative public speech, and the examples are business presentations, seminars, and colleges. The second type is a persuasive public speech, usually used by sales and marketing personnel. And the third type is a entertaining public speech or public speaking, usually used by stand-up comedians. Right? It's of entertaining nature. They speak and they make you laugh. Right? So this is, please mark this as one of the important questions. Now, what do you need to do? Just like presentation, the pattern you first have to select a pattern of arranging the information. So, in case of public speaking, there are 5 different patterns. 4 of them you are quite aware about. The one that is new is topical pattern. And the topical pattern, what you do is you jump from idea to idea or from theme to theme. From idea to idea or from theme to theme, which means you move theme wise or topic wise. Remember, it is topical, related to topic. If you understand the subpoints, you will be easily able to write. Right? So topical means related to topics. Do not confuse topical with tropical. Okay, tropical fruits. This is topical. Topic is the word, and from there it is topical. So it moves from one idea to another, or it will move smoothly from theme to theme. Right? Different themes it will be covering. Next, we are very well familiar, and we have been using this word since we have started working or learning this subject. So that's chronological, using sequence or using a time sequence for a framework. Chronological, usually, as I said, the events that occur during certain period of time. Right? That's why it's saying the word time sequence. It can also be called the timeline. The timeline. Then you have got classification. Classification, here you have to classify information according to different categories. Let's say when we are talking about the world, we classify it as living objects and non-living objects. Now in living objects, unicellular objects, multicellular objects. Non-living objects, it's the plant kingdom or the other kingdoms, etc. Right? So dividing into different categories and subcategories would happen in classification. Remember, we have been hearing this word classification of things, different things we have classified. Means they have similar characteristics and then some special features. That's how you classify. Problem solution, again you can refer back to the presentation part where you had problem solution. You state a problem and then you give one or multiple solutions to it. Usually it's not limited to one solution, it would be always having multiple solutions. And then cause effect, again we can refer back to the presentation skills where you have a version of different types of causes of a problem and then the effects, and then you provide a solution. Right? So you have a model of it, the most recent and specific one. So even this you can mark as an important one, because this might create a confusion in terms that we have learned some patterns for presentation. These are the patterns for public speaking. Now the method. There are 4 different methods of making a public speech. 1 is the memory method, 2 the manuscript method, 3 the impromptu, and 4 the notes. Memory. You prepare for it. You memorize the information, and without any paper, you speak from your memory. You don't keep things for reference purpose. If you take the manuscript, script, and menu is manual, right? So you made an entire script you have already prepared beforehand, and you work on the script, and then you do your public speech. Impromptu method is used when you do not rehearse and it's a quite sudden kind of a thing, right? Impromptu kind of speeches are quite sudden, you don't have any plan, it's like on the spot kind of a thing. The last one is notes. In this kind of public speaking, when you have notes, it means that you don't prepare the whole thing line to line and word to word, you have bullet points. It's similar to the cue cards that this reality show hosts have in their hand, right? They don't have the whole thing. Remember those cue cards, those rectangular cue cards, small, half a page, half A4 size, right? Those cue cards of cardboard, they don't have the whole information, they don't have the whole paragraph, they'll have bullet points, right? That is, they'll have the information, okay, this is next, this is next. Other things join along with memory, right? People memorize, or they already have read the manuscript which was given to them, right? So notes means, see, what's the difference between manuscript and notes? Manuscript means the entire paragraph is written, the entire speech is written, word to word, paragraph to paragraph, sentence to sentence. While in notes, what do? Is you put up bullet points. Some people are very good speakers, so what do? They just have points in front of them. So I'll speak on this point, then I'll transit to this point, then I'll transit to the third point, that way. Right? So these are the 4 methods which are used when you are making a public speech. So we have a reconnecting question. Is the statement true or false? Informative speeches are most commonly used by sales and marketing people to attract the interest of potential clients in their products. Is the statement true or false? Before we move ahead, we've got an excellent question from Gaurav. The question is, motivational speakers, where are they included? In which kind of public speaking? So let me make it clear that motivational speaker would either be included in informative speeches or in persuasive speeches. Let me tell you how. How can it be that, depending on what they are discussing? Let's say they just want to tell you something. Let's say they want to share an experience with you. Then they are just providing information. But few motivational speakers, they would speak to persuade that this is the key factor of success, or these are the keys to success. In that case, the motivational speaker, whatever he is speaking, it becomes actually a persuasive speech, right? So they can either be categorized as informative speakers, or they can be categorized as persuasive speakers, depending on the topic that they are discussing. Some of the speakers talk about things, just provide you information. Some of them try to convince that this is the way, right? That's how it works. And in case of the statement for which you have answered, you are all correct. The statement is false. Then which is the speech that is used by sales and marketing people? It should be persuasive public speech. Now, steps to a good speech. How do I make my speech good? Mark this as an important question. Which are the steps you might have to discuss as well? The first step is selection of a topic. You need to select the topic properly. I cannot be talking about some movie of the 1970s to students of the 20th century or the 21st century. Even if I want to give you an example of a particular situation, I have to search and select a topic depending on my audience. That comes next. Everywhere, as I said, audience has to be given equal importance. That's why the audience analysis is step number 2. Step 3 is researching and planning. Remember, information cannot come to you. You have to go to the information. You have to research, you have to plan. Then you have to organize the ideas. Internet, even if you ask a specific question on the Google search engine, it will not give you the specific answer. It will give you a choice. You pick and choose. It's your choice. So organize the ideas properly. Whatever is laid before you, you cannot just pick it as it is. You have to organize it. Next, the wording. Wording means actually preparing the things, verbal as well as non-verbal. Remember, when you are writing, people cannot see the non-verbal expression. So even if you are angry and you are writing something, people cannot see you were angry when you wrote it. But when you are speaking, the same is not possible. People will be observing not only what you speak through words, but also what you speak through your body. Remember body language over here. Last, developing confidence and overcoming fear. So how do you develop confidence? Remember here, please connect with presentation skills as well. Remember, I have said that presentation skills does not only mean a PowerPoint. It does not only mean a PowerPoint. It also means whatever you say or whatever you speak as well. Right? So what do you do to develop or have control over self? You have to have the confidence that because you have prepared it, nobody else can present it better. So nobody else can make that speech better than you do because you have made it. Right? And overcoming the fear is you have to imagine, as I said, that the audience does not have idea about the topic because you have made a boundary, you have made a selection, you have selected an area, and you have tried to work only a few points in the area. So that few points you are the best person to inform about. So how do you select a topic? This question is really important, keeping in mind 7 marks or the maximum mark question. Right, so what 3 things do you keep in mind while you select the topic? You have to first have a little background and a knowledge of the topic. Right? Let's say if I'm asked to talk about something, if I am asked, right? So I cannot take up a topic which is related to computer engineering or computers directly because I really do not have an idea about it. I really do not have much knowledge and experience in the field. Yes, I can get the knowledge, I need time. Right? Then secondly, the audience. As I said, this is a performance for the audience. So the interest of the audience. And then the occasion of the speech. On what occasion are you speaking? Remember, we all have had this experience of making small speeches on Teachers' Day, Independence Day, Republic Day in school and in college. We might also have been asked to give a little speech, a 1 or a 2 minute speech on special days like the day when, let's say, the Engineers' Day, the Environmental Day, different days that we are celebrating across the calendar year. Right? So what's the occasion? Remember, you cannot say save trees, trees are your best friend on Engineers Day. That you can say on the Environment Day. You cannot pick up quotes and stories about trees. You can pick quotes and stories about engineers, how engineering works on Engineers Day, and how the environment needs our help to sustain, or we need the environment to sustain ourselves, would be very much suitable based on the occasion. Right? It's similar to even the letters that we write. When I'm placing the order, I cannot write and ask that, will you give a discount now because I'm ordering more? That I have already inquired. Similarly, for the speech as well, you cannot just start giving the speech on any topic. You have to know the occasion of the speech. When is the speech being done, or when is the speech taking place? Next, the audience analysis. It is very important about the audience information to be known by the speaker. Why? You can prepare accordingly, because maybe if you have a mixed crowd, that is a mixed age group, mixed language speakers, so you have to find something which is common and something that will help all of them to work with you. These are some of the questions. Remember, these questions we have already worked on in the presentation skills. These are the same range of questions that you have over here to analyze the audience. Researching and planning. So first thing that I do when I have to give a speech is I'll start researching. I'll start working on it. I'll find information. I'll try to gather information. After I gather the information, I have to arrange it in a proper order. Remember, you have to select the pattern: topical, categorical, chronological, problem solution, etc. Whatever is appropriate to the topic. Now, not only that, but you also have to decide the appropriate opening. Remember, in presentation skills, we had the word porch. Porch means the anecdote, the short story, or the event, or maybe say a phrase or some words of wisdom that you want to pick over here and connect to your speech. Remember, plainly beginning a speech would not be as impressive as starting it with an anecdote or a short story. Even few lines from the poems would be very interesting. What is he going to say? Let's say there is this beautiful poem by Robert Frost. You might have heard of it. The lines are quite famous. And the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. And I speak this 4 or 5 lines and then I start my speech. You can just close your eyes and imagine the impact that you have on the audience. Just trying to tell the audience that you have so much of responsibility that you have to go on. Whatever is the situation, things must work. If the topic is something like that, and you speak these 3 or 4 lines of the poem, very famous, people have heard of it, people have listened to it. They might not remember who Robert Frost is, but they would remember the woods. They would definitely remember the last 2 lines because they are same, they're recurring lines, right? Just think of the imagination, or imagine the situation of the audience, how engaging and interesting it would be, instead of me just starting, you should be doing this, life should not stop, and things of advice that I give, right? So decide and plan the appropriate opening. Try to make it as interesting as possible. If you are a beginner in giving speeches, the advice would be you should have small index cards or cue cards, cue cards, right? But you have to limit the cue card. You cannot have whole paragraphs. As I said, it's a cue card. To give you a cue, it should be like the bullet point. You don't have to read the whole paragraph first, you read it and then you speak to the audience. That would not be a good thing, right? So you could have just a 1 line or 2 words, 3 words where you glance and then you can talk, right? That's how you do when you are researching and planning. Then organizing. Divide the speech into smaller parts. Small chunks of information makes it easier for the speaker to recollect what he or she has to speak. Don't have to only arrange the content, but you also have to arrange the introduction as well as the conclusion. How will you conclude? So certain people leave you quite mesmerized when they end the speech. You felt, oh my god, it ended so fast, time flew. Beautifully he has ended it or she has ended it, right? So also think of how beautiful you can make your conclusion along with the beauty that you have presented in your introduction. So it comes to a complete circle. The process completes, right? You just cannot leave information hanging in the conclusion part. If you have begun good, madam said, if you begin good, half the battle is won, but you have to win the half battle by completing it properly, right? So in the completion part also think of something which can complete it, give it a complete sense, and also end it in a very mesmerizing and a very nice way. That's where you organize. The organizing of the content part happens into this. Wordings. You have to see, you cannot practice non-verbal communication, but you can practice paralinguistic features where you want to raise your voice, where you want to have a variation, where you want to lower your voice. As I said, when you are singing a poem, you cannot just simply say it like you say a sentence. The example that I give, right? I cannot just simply say the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep and miles to go before I sleep. That does not sound like a poem. It just sounds like a few bunch of sentences. What I have to do is I have to give it a little variation by saying, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Now it sounds a little rhythmic like a poem. Right? You do not have to excel in music to speak poems. You just have to give it a little variation. So when I say the wording non-verbal and verbal, it's not only the body language, but it is also the paralinguistic features. Also includes how you look into the some person's eye. How will you have proper gestures? That is, you raise your fist or you raise your hand to emphasize a point, right? See, to some people it comes naturally when they are speaking. To some you have to practice it. Does not mean that you cannot acquire it. Practice can make you a skillful speaker. You can practice all these skills. That is why you have to pay attention on the verbal part along with the non-verbal part, right? Which includes everything that we have learned in unit number 1, from kinesics to proxemics, paralinguistic features, etc. So these are the examples. Because why do we need to pay attention on the non-verbal as well? 65 to 70% of the communication depends on non-verbal communication. It's only 35% to 40% where people pay attention on what you are speaking. Most of the time they pay attention on how you are behaving. You can always recollect this in small incidences that have happened in your life. So these are the few things which you can pay attention on. Even your dressing, even when you are dressing up, that is also a way of communicating. Let's take a smaller example which we are all familiar with. See, what you wear to the college, you don't wear to a wedding, and what you wear to the wedding, you cannot come wearing it to the college, except for a few occasions. Let's say you have a traditional day celebration, you can wear something similar. You don't wear it every day. When I say appearance, I mean to say, I'm not telling you to wear branded or expensive clothes. What I'm trying to say is whatever clothing you have, but a little tidy version of it. Maybe the shirt or the t-shirt is ironed, the kurta is ironed. You have worn appropriate shoes according to the dress that you are wearing. You cannot wear flip-flops when you are coming into a professional environment, right? So that also people take notice. Now, somebody might ask me, madam, who would look at the shoes? But remember, always remember, psychologically it is said that the very first thing a person notices is the shoes. Now remember, or try to recollect occasions when you have seen nice shoes, mind-blowing color. and then you look at the person's face. First you look at the shoe. This might have happened with you a lot of time. That time we don't pay attention that we are looking first at the shoes and then at the person. Now you can recollect, right? So the human mind works in such a way that you first look at the person's shoe and then at the face. That's what they see, right? So you might have noticed people wearing different kind of shoes. You might have even made a comment that, had the shoes been different or some other shoe been worn, then the outfit was perfect. This kind of things have happened. So that's why what we have observed, other people will also be observing when we are making the public speech. So that's why when we are working on things like that, you have to not only look at the content verbally but also non-verbally as well. And the last part of it is developing confidence. You must be sincere. If you have practiced and if you have prepared, there's no problem with the confidence and the overcoming of the fear part. Why? Because you have made it. You have learned it, practiced it, worked on it. Who could know it better than you? It is also advisable that before you make the public speech, in case it is not an impromptu speech, but in case of speeches which are told to you beforehand, you have time for preparation, you should go through the content. After organizing the content, you should at least go through the content twice. When you go through some content twice or thrice, you will automatically learn, or you'll automatically things will fall into place. Okay, after point 1 this point comes, then this. So point 1 has 2 subpoints A and B, point 2 has 3 subpoints A, B, C. Then we have an example, we have an anecdote, and then we have the conclusion, right? You might also have to prepare for the questions that the audience might have. Remember, here when we talk of workplace scenarios, we always talk of improvement, and that is why question and answer sessions are an important part of any kind of documentation that happens. Remember, in the form of either feedback, suggestion, recommendation, or question and answer. Here again, you can use the tracked technique. The question was very important when we learned about the tracked technique in presentation skills. So we have a reconnecting question. Is the statement true or false? Prior information about the audience can help the speaker present well. Is the statement true or false? Quick and excellent answers. You are all correct. The statement is true. So how do you make your speech interesting? This could be a small, short answer. It's nothing but a precise version of what we have learned. So how do you make your speech interesting? First, the starting must be very good. It should be catchy. You may use wit and humor, witty quotes and thoughts. Appropriate use of verbal as well as non-verbal. That is, body language should be appropriate. Use examples and instances which are recent. Here I have mentioned examples and instances. Recent examples would help the audience connect better. And end on an emphatic note. Emphatic means, or empathy is the word from where the word you have a variation. Empathy means you connect to the audience. You have to connect to the audience. You have to feel what the audience feels, or the audience actually has to feel what you feel. Here I'll give you a very simple example. Someday in your life you might have gone and heard this religious stories that takes place, the Bhagavad Katha and all, by eminent speakers. And maybe you have heard about the Ramayana. Right? So we all have heard about it. We all know the story. But every time when the incident of Ram, Sita and Lakshman going to the forest comes, we will feel that pain. Every time we know the story, it is going to happen it might work in that way only. But every time that story comes, or that part or point in the story comes, you will feel the pain. That is having empathetic feelings. That's an example of empathy. That is, you connect to the storyteller. Similarly, the audience should connect to you when you are telling your story, so they should move in the flow with you. They would take the journey with you. So, here's a small video that I'd like to play for public speaking before we complete the session today.
Some people think that there's a TED Talk formula. Talk on a brown red road, share a childhood story, divulge a personal secret, end with an inspiring call to action. No, that's not how you do TED Talk. In fact, if you only use those devices, you're just going to come across as cliche or emotionally manipulative. But there is one thing that all great TED Talks have in common, and I would like to share that thing. So, over the past 12 years, I've had a ringside seat listening to many hundreds of amazing TED speakers like these. I've helped prepare their talks for prime time and learn directly from them their secrets of what makes for a great talk. And even though these speakers and their topics all seem completely different, they actually do have one key common ingredient, and it's this. Your number one task as a speaker is to transfer into your listeners' minds the extraordinary gift, the strange and beautiful object an idea. Let me show you what I mean. Because she is about to give a TED Talk, and frankly, she's terrified. Over the course of 18 minutes, 1,200 people, many of whom have never seen each other before, are finding that their brains are starting to sync with Haley's brain and with each other. They're literally beginning to exhibit the same brainwave patterns. I don't just mean that they're feeling the same emotions. There's something even more startling happening. And it's taking a look inside Haley's brain for a moment. There are billions of interconnected neurons in an impossible tangle. But look, here, right here, a few million of them are linked to each other in a way which represents a single idea. And incredibly, this exact pattern is being recreated in real time inside the minds of everyone listening. That's right. In just a few minutes, a pattern involving millions of neurons is being teleported into 1,200 minds just by people listening to a voice and watching a face. But wait, here's an idea anyway. Well, you could think of it as a pattern of information that helps you understand and navigate the world. Ideas come in all shapes and sizes, complex and analytical, and simple and aesthetic. Here are just a few examples shared from the TED stage. Satya Robinson, creativity is key to our kids' future.
My contention is that creativity now is as important in education as literacy, and we should treat it with the same sense.
Laura Harding, building from bamboo. It's beautiful.
It is growing all around us. It's strong. It's elegant. It's earthquake resistant.
Chimamanda Adichie, people are more than a single identity.
The single story creates stereotypes. And the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete.
Your mind is teeming with ideas, not just randomly, but carefully linked together. Collectively they form an amazingly complex structure that is your personal worldview. It's your brain's operating system. It's how you navigate the world. And it is built up out of millions of individual ideas. So, for example, if one little component of your worldview is the idea that kittens are adorable, then when you see this, you'll react like this. Take another component of your worldview is the idea that leopards are dangerous, and when you see this, you'll react a little bit differently. So it's pretty obvious why the ideas that make up your worldview are crucial. You need them to be as reliable as possible, a guide to the scary but wonderful real world out there. Now, different people's worldviews can be dramatically different. For example, how does your worldview react when you see this image?
What do you think when you look at me? A woman of faith, expert, maybe even a sister, or
answer, there are millions of people out there who would react very differently. So that's why ideas really matter. If communicated properly, they're capable of changing forever how someone thinks about the world and shaping their actions both now and well into the future. Ideas are the most powerful force shaping human culture. So if you accept that your number one task as a speaker is to build an idea inside the minds of your audience, here are 4 guidelines for how you should go about that task. 1. Limit your talk to one major idea. Ideas are complex things. You need to slash back your content so that you can focus on the single idea you're most passionate about and give yourself a chance to explain that one thing properly. You have to give context, share examples, make it vivid, to pick one idea and make it the through line running through your entire talk so that everything you say links back to it in some way. 2. Give your listeners a reason to care. Before you can start building things inside the minds of your audience, you have to get their permission to welcome you in. And the main tool to achieve that? Curiosity. Stir your audience's curiosity. Use intriguing, provocative questions to identify why something doesn't make sense and needs explaining. If you can reveal a disconnection in someone's worldview, they'll feel the need to bridge that knowledge gap. And once you've sparked that desire, it will be so much easier to start building your idea. 3. Build your idea, piece by piece, out of concepts that your audience already understands. You use the power of language to weave together concepts that already exist in your listeners' minds. Not your language, their language. You start where they are. The speakers often forget that many of the terms and concepts they live with are completely unfamiliar to their audiences. Now, metaphors can play a crucial role in showing how the pieces fit together because they reveal the desired shape of the pattern based on an idea that the listener already understands. For example, when Jennifer Kahn wanted to explain the incredible new biotechnology called CRISPR, she said, "It's as if the first time you put a word processor to edit DNA. CRISPR allows you to cut and paste genetic information really easily." Now, a vivid explanation like that delivers a satisfying aha moment as it snaps into place in our minds. It's important, therefore, to test your talk on trusted friends and find out which parts they get confused about. 4. Here's the final tip. Make your idea worth sharing. By that I mean, ask yourself the question, who does this idea benefit? And I need you to be honest with the answer. If the idea only serves you or your organization, then I'm sorry to say it's probably not worth sharing. The audience will see right through you. But if you believe that the idea has the potential to brighten up someone else's day, or change someone else's perspective for the better, or inspire someone to do something differently, then you have the core ingredient to a truly great one that can be a gift to them and to all of us.
So these are the ways you can make your public speech better. So what should be avoided in public speeches based on the video that we saw? Excellent. The answer is correct. It's C. You have to build your idea with familiar concepts. So do we have any questions, queries, or doubts for public speech or public speaking? Excellent. Then we can move on to our quiz. This is the link for the quiz for today. You can start attempting the quiz. Excellent work. 10 of you have already attempted the quiz. I see the numbers of 5 on 5 have been increasing. That's good. Very good work. Oh, such a quick reply. Almost 45 students have already submitted. That's excellent. Excellent. Almost everybody has completed it. Now, do not worry about the attendance. I've already taken the attendance with the list of students' name while you were doing your quiz. So you have to do one work. If you go to the shared folder in each of your labs, you will find a new folder now, which is called public speaking, a public speech. You will find an Excel sheet with a list of 100 topics. You are supposed to select any one topic, prepare a small video, prepare a speech, video record it, and upload it in the same folder of public speech according to your lab batches. Now you can look into the lab batch and you can have a selection of a topic. Now, as there are a list of 100 topics, I expect you not to select the same topic. Right? There is a big list available over there, so I expect that each one of you does or selects a different topic. Don't select the same topic. You have to submit your public speech by 15th of August. You have to submit your public speech by 15th of August. Fine. In case we have some doubts and queries, we can always take up those in our lab sessions, or maybe you can always contact me when you do it. Fine. Thank you, class. Have yourself a very nice day. Thank you.